In this video, we'll be learning how to calculate a bill with both sales tax and a tip. So just to make sure that we have some common language as we talk about this topic, the first thing we need to make sure we clarify is that sales tax is the percentage amount you are taxed on the total bill of each purchase. Sales tax is required, and it will vary by state, by city, by county. It kind of depends on where you are at what the sales tax will be. Tip, on the other hand, is completely your choice, and it's the percentage amount you tip for a service given a bill amount. And this is typically given to your wait staff at a restaurant, like when they wait on you and provide you with a service. So when we're talking about sales tax, that's the required amount that the state taxes you on your bill. And then tip is your choice, and you get to select how much you are going to tip. So let's dive in and look at this first example. It says you go to dinner with your family at Buffalo Wild Wings and have a total bill of $52.50. Now this total bill of $52.50 is your bill before tax and tip is applied. So it says if you are being charged 5% sales tax, what will your final bill be? So in order to find our actual bill with tax, we need to find what 5% of $52.50 is. And there are two ways to do this. One is to set up a proportion, and we can say we have X over $52.50 is equal to 5 over 100. And then we can cross multiply and solve. That's the first strategy we could use to find 5% of $52.50. The second thing we could do is we could take 5 and divide it by 100, which gives us 0.05. And then we can multiply that by $52.50. Regardless of the strategy that you select, you take 0.05 times $52.50, or you use the cross multiplication method, what you find is that your tax is going to be $2 and then 0.625. And if you're looking at that wondering, well, cents only goes to 2 decimal places, you're right. We technically can only go to 2 decimal places. So in order to get our bill as accurate as possible, we're going to round to the nearest hundredth, which means we're going to round this 2 appropriately. The way that we do that is we look at the number to the right of the 2, because the 2 is what we have to decide if we're going to round. If that number next to the 2 is 4 or below, we're going to keep it as is. If it's 5 or above, we're going to round up. And because it is a 5 next to the 2, our amount of tax that we pay on this bill will be $2.63. So that's our tax. But the question here isn't what is the tax going to be. The question is, what will your final bill be? So that means the amount we paid plus our tax. So we can take $52.50, which is our bill without tax, add on $2.63, and we find that our total with tax is going to be $55.13. So that's the first part here, is calculating our bill with tax. Now, the second part here says if you then decide to tip your server 20% after sales tax. Now, this is done different ways. I tend to tip after sales tax, but others tend to tip before sales tax. There really isn't a right or wrong way to do it. We just need to be consistent so that we know kind of what's expected. So in my class, I'm probably going to have you tipping after sales tax, and I'll be very specific so that you know we have to use this number with tax as a reference point. So we're going to add, and we need to find 20% of our bill, which is $55.13. And again, there are two ways to do this. The first way is you can do X over $55.13 is equal to 20 over 100, cross multiply and solve. The second way is you can do 20 divided by 100, which is 0.20. And then here we take 0.20, we multiply it by $55.13, and we find that the total for our tip is 11.026. Now, realistically, we know that this can't go to 3 decimal spots. So here we know we need to figure out if we're going to round the 2 or not. So we're going to look at the number to the right of the 2. Because this number is 5 or above, we're going to round that 2 up. So our tip is going to be $11.03. So what we ultimately pay for our meal is we take $55.13, which is our bill with tax. We're going to add on $11.03 for a total of $66.16. This will be what I pay in total after tip and tax are applied. So let's take a look at a second, slightly more complicated example here. So here it says you go to dinner at Olive Garden with your significant other and have a total bill of $38.62. Since Olive Garden is in Minnesota, they have a higher sales tax of 6.875%. What will your final bill be after sales tax? So here, I know this looks complicated because of that complicated percentage, but it's really the same process. So here, we are going to take and we're going to find 6.875% of 38.62. So remember, you can use the cross multiplication method if you like, or you can just take 6.875 divided by 100. So we get 0.06875, and we then multiply that by 38.62. And when we do that, we end up with 2.655125, which is way longer than the 2 decimal points allotted for a number for money. So we know that we can only go to 2 decimal points, so we have to decide if we're going to round that 5 up or leave it as 5. If I look to the right, I notice that the number to the right is a 5, which means it's going to round up. So my tax is going to be $2.66. So as a result, to find my bill after sales tax, I take $38.62, I add on 2.66, so we take $38.62 plus 2.66, and we end up with $41.28. So that is our bill after tax has been applied. Now, it says you have an exceptional server and decide to tip them 25%. After our sales tax, we're going to carry down that $41.28. What will you ultimately pay for your meal? So we need to find 25% of $41.28 to know what we tipped. So we're going to take 25 and divide it by 100, which gives us 0.25. Then we multiply that by our bill, which is $41.28. So 0.25 times $41.28, which gives us total tip of $10.32. And this one doesn't need any rounding, which is super nice. So now to find what we ultimately pay, we take the $41.28, we add it together with $10.32, and we find that we ultimately pay $51.60 for our entire meal.